It's preparing to live stream now. And did you guys hear an echo at all when I was talking? Yes?
Yes, but that could have been coming from anyone's mic that was live.
Okay.
Because there were several people who are not muted, and one of them has a system that's not playing nicely with Zoom.
Okay. All right. Well, good morning. Today is April 20th. It's 10:04 a.m. I'm so grateful for you guys taking the time to join me today for another Tuesday Talks. The first item that I wanted to talk to you guys about is we have an article that's up on the website that's going to be included in the May newsletter about an upcoming event from the Gun Violence Awareness Task Force. It's on May 18th at 7 p.m. But for you guys, what I wanted to let you know about is that we have 2 publicity videos that are now available, one in Spanish and one in English. And they're both available at dscumc.org/gun-violence-awareness at the task force team's webpage. And so that you can download them and then upload them to your own social media or however it is that you want to share it with your congregation. But you could also just share the videos that we've already posted on Facebook this morning. So the conference's Facebook page address is facebook.com/DSCUMC. That's short for Desert Southwest Conference United Methodist Church. Okay, any questions about that? No. Okay, so the video on Facebook includes a link to, I think it includes the link to the event on our calendar so that you could register for the Zoom session. Either way, I think they're all interlinked. I think even if you went to the website and got to the calendar, you'll be able to access those videos that you can download for publicity. And if it's not there already, I'll add the link to an article that we published earlier this week that you guys could copy and paste or glean from it what you want for your church newsletters so that you have a little bit more text information about what this event is all about. Why should people attend? What are they going to get out of it because they attended? Okay. Next item. So I've got a few things about annual conference to give you guys updates about, but just know at any point, if you're looking for something about annual conference, one of your members asks you something about it, whether it's registration or documents available or when is the practice session happening. I'm trying really hard to keep the webpage dscumc.org/AC, which is short for annual conference, updated with any information that we have for annual conference. The one thing that you won't see there yet, but it will be added today, is the annual conference logo. Yay! I'm excited about that because a lot of times it feels like we have to put a lot of stuff on hold if we don't have the graphics ready to go with the for that form or whatever. And I don't know if it's like that for you guys as well for annual conference. Is the logo a big deal? And if so, do you need it in a specific size so I can have all of those available on that AC page? Do you guys know off the top of your head, like, or is it just like, oh, if it's just a little square, that's good enough? Or we need a rectangle banner image or maybe a social media size image? What do you think? Go ahead, Sherry.
Just for my own purposes, because I don't know what Kathy uses or anything like that, but it would be really nice if you had options that somebody could click on if they only want the little one or the big one or whatever, since there are so many others and there's only just a few people on here. Just from my own perspective, I think I'd throw all those out there, the options out there so they could all get them.
Good idea. That's what we'll do then. So I'll put them all in there. And in case you didn't know, typically, at least on our website, because I think I'm going to try to have all those different versions available, but in case I don't have, let's say, the really long, skinny graphic available, just a quick tip, anytime that you're looking for like, where's the download link for that one image that's there on our website, dscumc.org? You probably can right click on it and you'll get an option to be able to open the image only on a separate tab. And then you can right click on that and save it. You might just, if you right click and do save as from whatever it is that you see on the page, you'll get a smaller version of that graphic. It's going to be the size that it was shaped down to for that page. But if you right click on it, it opens it in the original format on a new tab, and then you can download a bigger image that you can crop to the exact dimensions that you need. Just an FYI for graphics in general on websites. And of course, I'm only talking about our website because we do try to only post images that are copyright free. But if ever you see something like, wow, that is a really pretty image, are you sure that's copyright free? Ask. Send me an email, communications@dscumc.org, and preferably a link to that graphic that you're talking about. And then I can let you know for sure if it is copyright free or not. Okay, next item about annual conference. So did you guys get to see the annual conference mission project video, the first one that we published? You hadn't heard about it. I don't think we wrote an article about it, so that might be why. But to find that, and so I need to add a link to the mission project resources on the webpage. Mission project. Okay. So you could go to dscumc.org/mission-project. I'm going to double check to make sure that works. umc.org/mission. Yep, that's going to work. So on that page, we have some more photos available, and there's the video that you can download for social media. It's a small kind of a square-shaped video specifically for social media. We're doing the finishing touches on a new video that you can use for worship if you want to advertise the mission project and have that be the giving feature for that worship service. That video is about, I think that one's about 4 minutes long. I know I really wanted to do like a 1-minute worship, and we might have another one coming up, but this one includes a little scripture story in it. So, you know, watch it, share it with your pastor, and see how you guys can use it, and maybe shorten the sermon a little bit, reference in the video, it's the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000. So there might be a sermon coming up on that, and you could use this mission project video, and it's going to tell part of the sermon story. So maybe that's one way you could cut a little bit of time off of the online worship service. Okay, so that's available on dscumc.org/mission-project. It's the less than a minute social media video that's there now, and what's coming up is the 4-minute worship video. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to have that available either later today or tomorrow. Let's see, okay, next is registration for annual conference. First, do you guys have any questions about those videos? Okay, so if you've been asked, registration for annual conference opens on April 28th, and your clergy or pastors will need to register with their @dscumc.net email address. The lay members annual conference can register with whatever they normally use to register with. And a few times I've asked for the confirmation about, or in case you guys hadn't turned in your church conference forms or charge conference forms, if you could send me an email to communications@dscumc.org with your list of selected lay members to annual conference. Then I can send them the information about annual conference too. Many of you have sent me your list of lay members to annual conference, but I'm still missing some churches. So, and we are working on reaching out to those churches individually, but we've also found that thanks to the confirmation messages that you guys send me, like, oh, here's our lay members. Sometimes we had the wrong phone number out of the charge conference form, or I don't remember if we ever had a bad email address, but it's just helpful to confirm that, yes, it's right. So if it's not too much trouble, please email your lay members to annual conference to communications@dscumc.org. And to clarify, that does not include your church's lay leader, unless the lay leader was one of the people that were elected to be the lay member to annual conference. Annual conference logo, registration. Oh, what you can, or your lay members to annual conference and clergy can register for the pre-conference briefing, which is scheduled for May 21st at 6 p.m. The registration link is already available on that same dscumc.org/AC page. You can also register for the practice session, which is on June 9th at 6 p.m. That registration link is also available at dscumc.org/AC. So during the pre-conference briefing and the practice session, both of those sessions will include some practice time for the lay members and clergy to be able to vote, to manage, to work through the new voting system. It's supposed to be easier than last year, and it worked out really well last year, but the training was necessary. People that didn't make it to training were struggling a little bit during annual conference, and then it delays everybody. So try really hard to get your people to register for one of those. Ideally, the pre-conference briefing would be best, because then they're familiar with what's coming up for annual conference. Some of the stuff that we do during the pre-conference briefing is do an overview of all of the legislative items that they're going to be voting on. There might be a few videos about something else that's going to happen at annual conference. Maybe like if we were going to have a keynote speaker, that there might be a little bit of discussion about that. There might be, there definitely will be opportunities for questions, whether it's about the next year's budget. Randy Bowman, our Director of Finance and Administration, is going to be there as well. Typically, the different chairs of the committees that are presenting something significant like that will be present as well and available to respond to questions. So that's super helpful, because sometimes when we're voting on things, the different teams do a really good job of creating a report or doing a little brief video summary, but sometimes it's still, at least speaking for myself, sometimes I'm still a little bit like in the gray area. I don't quite understand. So having that Q&A time is very helpful, so you know exactly what you're voting on. So it's pretty important for them to attend the pre-conference briefing on May 21st at 6 p.m. Any questions about that? Okay, so the clergy emails, it's coming. I promise you they're coming. I was hoping to have them done on Wednesday and have like a letter sent out to all clergy about it. And then on Wednesday, immediately we found some glitches and had to take some time to fix all that. And then Monday, we figured it all out. And then we had to do then our two different database lists weren't matching properly. There was all sorts of stuff that was very time consuming, and GCFA, thank God for GCFA, they're taking care of it. And they were guessing yesterday that they should be done and ready to create the new accounts by end of day today. So that means that tomorrow is when I will be sending instructions to all clergy and lay persons assigned to an appointment. I'll be sending an email then about how to access the new account. It'll include the provider user agreement about the account and how to access IT support. So originally I was saying that IT support from GCFA was going to be available during the month of May only. Since we're creating these accounts a lot earlier, the IT support is going to be available from as soon as I send out that email alerting everyone that the accounts are available. They can start contacting GCFA to get help about how to add it to their stuff. The instructions in the email do include step-by-step how to do it yourself. So, if they're struggling with it, ask them, well, can I see that email that they sent you? And actually, I'm going to be sending that to you guys too. So you'll have it as well. So you might be able to help them out with that if they're not getting through to GCFA, because GCFA is not just, they're not our staff. They're our contractors, and they support many different annual conferences. And so all of a sudden adding another 350-ish new clients that's going to be a big deal. I know they can handle it, but there's never, there's certain times in the year, and I think that right now is one of them, where we end up experiencing a little bit of a delay. They're not always available on the phone right then and there. They'll call you back, or you might need to follow up with another email or something because they're really busy. So just keep that in mind, that if your clergy person wants to be able to get this done and they can't get through to GCFA, ask them to be patient, but also you might be able to help them out by going through those instructions with them. Okay, questions about that? Oops, no, okay. The final thing is about resources that we have for virtual church or having worship online, and the transition that's coming up pretty soon for many churches. And some, I think, have started to have a small gathering in their sanctuary. So they maybe still want to continue with online worship, but now it's also in-person worship. So I'm going to share my screen for a little bit to show you guys what we have available and things that are coming up. Let me see here. Okay, so here's our DSCUMC homepage. And there's this button, How to Worship Online. So you go there, and there's, there was talk about virtual choir. So I'm going to go backwards since I started on that one. So you click on the virtual choir, and there's all sorts of tutorials there about specific programs and different people leading these tutorials. There's articles about it, demonstrations, all sorts to find there. So if they wanted to try that out, that's where they can find all sorts of information about it. There's different, so like digital giving, that was one of the things that if your church isn't doing it already, this page will help you find information about that. There's all sorts of discounts that you could get for having worship online. There's some really good Facebook groups that have already addressed, and really I'm going to highlight the Western Jurisdiction Facebook group. That particular group is, very, very active. It's not just Desert Southwest Conference, it's all Western Jurisdiction. I would guess to say there's even people beyond the Western Jurisdiction that are in it, but it is a closed Facebook group. I highly recommend that one. David can probably tell you a little bit about, how fluid it is, how responsive it is, the variety of resources. Yeah. See, he's got 2 thumbs up to it. David, have you ever had instances where I don't believe that would happen, but have you ever had instances where you maybe didn't know the answer to something about copyright or some equipment piece for doing worship online in a different way? And if you did you go to this group and find your answer?
Yes, I did. In fact, I have one queued up that I'm planning on doing that very thing. And that might affect a lot of churches. And that is, okay, in our current online worship, we know how to put the video out there for people. But when we go back into a hybrid situation and we want the video both to play in the church and simultaneously out on our streamed worship, that's going to be a new little challenge for us. And there's different ways of doing that. And so I'm going to put out a question. Funny you should ask.
Yeah, because that's really what everybody's kind of transitioning towards now. Early on in COVID, it was just making the switch. And it seems like it's easy enough to just, we'll just continue it to on in person, but that's not the case.
Tomorrow morning, I'm visiting a local church at their request to do a little assessment of what they've got technologically speaking in terms of going to a hybrid, because they've been pre-recording and broadcasting, which you can do from anywhere. But when you get into the sanctuary and you need things to work from there. And so the first thing they told me was that their internet was 10 down and 2 up. That means 10, yes, horrors, 10 megabits per second down and 2 megabits per second up, which is not adequate for doing hardly anything. So the first thing I did was right back to them, said, call your provider today, renegotiate your contract, get a higher speed. So internet's important.
Thank you. Sherry.
Along these same lines, one of the questions I wanted to ask, someone else asked me that is in charge of communication in another city, because they've had someone that's been very knowledgeable about technology and they're losing that individual. And so it brought some of the questions that came about was, are there opportunities for grants or money through the conference to enhance technology? One. Secondly, if then this, is it possible to write for an independent grant if you're a church then to, as a not-for-profit, to be able to write for a grant to get what you need to do that? And do we have grant writers within the conference to be able to do that? So that was, for people that need to have that help, not just to have the information on how to be able to do virtual, but rather need the money as well to be able to do that. And then what approval process do you have to do that?
Okay, thanks. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen because yes, we do have some stuff available. So under the COVID-19, that's where you can find the bishop's updates, but we also have information about loan grants that were available through the conference. Let me click on that one. And so you can read all of this information here. And then here's the form to apply for it. And you just click submit. So it's that easy, but there's also, let me move this over so I can see. Under resources, and you can go to grants. There's different grants available. And do I have, oh yes, I do. Okay. So reaching out to Billy Fidlin, she happens to be currently our grant person, which can either help with writing for grants or connecting a church with a specific grant that they might be looking for that maybe we don't have available right here. But we have had grants even from communications where it might pay for like having some David Topping or Rob Reinders come and help your church set up their online presence, potentially even with this transition. David and Rob Reinders, they're not staff, they're subcontracting with us. So it also depends on their availability. But there's other people too. So if your church has someone that is really good with whether it's setting up the equipment, understanding what you need for the sanctuary, maybe really good with setting up your accounts and getting them all linked up so that they'll simulcast to YouTube and Facebook and the website and Vimeo and whatever. And that person is open to being, being one of our preferred subcontractors, I guess, or recommended subcontractors, freelancers. Send me their contact information. I'll chat with them a little bit. And because sometimes I do get emails from churches asking for, do you have a recommendation for someone that can do our video editing? Do you have a recommendation for someone that can come out to our church to take a look at what we have and tell us exactly what we need to buy? And that might be how David is going to this one church now, because I did get a request like that within the past week or two. And I recommended David Topping and a few others. I don't remember. Oh, yes, Don Downing. He's another one that is very knowledgeable with the equipment side specifically, especially if you want to be able to do an all-in-one that you can take to different places. Maybe sometimes you have worship in the chapel, sometimes in the large sanctuary, or right now in the summertime, we have worship and fellowship to save on electricity costs. Having that, movable all-in-one thing could work really well. And we have a video already recorded about what exactly Dawn did. Let's see here, that one would be, so all of these, the YouTube for Churches, that's 3 videos led by Glade Keniston from Lakeview UMC, and he did a great job explaining from basics to getting a little more complicated and really fine-tuning how to get your YouTube videos to be seen more, or to get like those ridiculously high viewer numbers. Vimeo for Churches. And see, here we've got a ton of different articles available about all sorts of stuff with online worship. Maybe some of it's just featuring some of these webinars that we had. So you can scroll through that stuff. We've got a ton of things about copyright. We had some different community conversations about how to do stuff online, how to get people more active. And if you click on these, you can see the resources that are mentioned in the video. More live streaming basics, copyright stuff. And you can find step-by-step instructions about live streaming. We've got some success stories. And then here in this little section here, this is where you can find some of our previous webinars that we've had. And I think it was about the tech software and webinar recording. I think that's the one where we had with Dawn Downing. Let's see here. Let me go through. So we had people from all over, even the Western jurisdiction. I'm looking to see if, yes. So this is the one that has Dawn Downing's video. Dawn Downing's explanation that has all of his systems that he put together, I think. Yep. But he goes through it, and he's also available to talk, one-on-one. He's even showing an app that they use to connect everyone so that if you're in person or online, you can watch the stream or donate right there all through the church app. And here's Rob Reinders, who also talks a little bit about how that all works together. Let me go back. So scroll through the different, just check them out and see if you guys are thinking about switching over. And some of these software and gear, it's not just talking about online worship. Sometimes we talk about the equipment to connect to the soundboard in the sanctuary. But if, that would be something to watch, like when you're starting that conversation, which is probably now, about what do we do to keep this going for when we're back in person, because there's tons of information in there. And then if you don't find what you need there, I highly, highly, highly recommend that Western Jurisdiction Facebook group. If you're looking for someone to come to your church specifically, just send me an email. I can connect you with options, and you can go from there. And in some cases, we can cover some of the expense of having someone like David Topping come out to your church, because as much as they do just because they love their church, they got to make a living too. So we got to pay their hourly wage. Thank you. David put in his email address in there, and I'll include that in the email to all of the churches. And David had to go. Anyway, I'll include his email address in the email that I send to all you guys after this session is done. I don't have anything else to share. Do you guys have any other questions or comments? No? Okay. Wow, we are really streamlining these. It's 10:33 now, so we basically got 30 minutes exactly. Oh, darn, 10:34. Better luck next week. All right. You guys have a great